Jordan, first off, what's up? How are you doing? How excited are you that baseball is back this week? Did you think we'd be here a month ago?
Of course, I always try to stay optimistic. I know it was a wild, emotional roller coaster for you, my friend, as it was for me as well. But now opening day just a few days away, I'm feeling so good and so excited for the season.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining me. I know you're going to be watching a lot of NL East baseball this year, so I wanted to bring you on, talk a little bit about the NL East. And so if you were to think of some storylines for this year, 3 things to watch in the National League East, hit me with those things. What would they be?
So, look, this obviously we have the defending World Series champs, but I'm going to put them aside for a second and start with the Mets because the Mets are always the biggest, drama-filled organization every season. You never know what's going to happen with this team. And after spending all the money that they did, Steve Cohen going big with Max Scherzer, going big with Canna and Marte, and they're making trades for Chris Bassett. I just cannot wait to see how this Mets season unfolds. Obviously, we've already had some tough news with DeGrom and Scherzer in the early going, but they're just the most unpredictable organization, and now they have the expectations of contending for a World Series. So I just cannot wait to see what happens with the New York Mets, as always.
Am I crazy for thinking look, we've heard the term for years. The Mets are going to Met. Look,
yeah.
Steve Cohen has come in and clearly been a different owner than we have ever seen before. And I'm tired of hearing that phrase. This Mets team, in my opinion, Jordan, is really, really good. And it is very unfortunate what has happened with DeGrom. And Scherzer's going to be fine. He might miss opening day. But I think they're a really good team. And if they can be just fine until DeGrom hopefully comes back at some point, this team has as good a shot as anybody in the NL East to win it and potentially the National League. I think they're really good.
I agree with you. And that's kind of what's so amazing about all this stuff that always clouds them is that, when you just look at it on paper and you didn't know all the drama that always surrounds them, you'd be like, what are we talking about? This team is incredible. And I think that in some ways that's earned. And you have to kind of not give them the benefit of the doubt in that sense. But you're right, though. This is not to say that I don't think they're going to be good. I just can't wait to see how it unfolds. So that would certainly be one of them. And we'll get to the Braves.
Yeah, I mean, another one.
Yeah, so what about the Phillies? Because for all the pressure that is on the Mets because they have spent so much money, the Phillies have the second longest postseason drought in baseball behind only my beloved Seattle Mariners. 10 years.
Yeah, we don't talk about that enough. We talk about the Mariners all the time, but we don't talk about the Phillies enough.
Yeah, and look, the Mariners are their own situation, but it's not like the Phillies haven't been trying really hard for at least the last 3 or 4 years. They have spent a ton of money. They have made big trades, and those moves have worked, right? They paid Zach Wheeler, and he's amazing. They paid Bryce Harper, and he's amazing. They traded for Real Muto. He's amazing, and now they're bringing in Castellanos and Schwarber, but it's the bottom parts of the roster just haven't been there. And I have to imagine for a Philadelphia fan base that is not exactly the most patient. Now's the time, man, and it's a tough division, but they really got to make something happen this year. And I think it might happen. I think that they could really be in that mix, whether it's for the division or the wild card. I'm feeling pretty good about the Phillies.
I'll just put it to you simply. Can they pitch well enough? We know they're going to rake. Can they pitch well enough?
Yeah, man. I mean, the starting rotation should be pretty good. I mean, obviously you got Nolan, Wheeler, Ranger Suarez, one of the more underrated pitchers in the National League. Kyle Gibson, if anything, you know exactly what you're going to get from him. They spent a lot of money on the bullpen. They decided to go, which makes sense after the last few years, to go get guys who have done it. Now, these guys are maybe past their primes a little bit. Juris Familia, Brad Hand, guys like that. I think that they can. And honestly, when your offense could be as good as this offense is, I don't know how they might just be able to outscore people, but it is. Trust me, I'm still worried about it. I won't believe it till I see it, but I think that this team is good enough to at least stay in the mix for the rest of the year.
Hey, I'm with you there. I'm with you. All right. Any more storylines for us? Something you're watching in the National League East?
Yeah, let's talk about the Marlins. I mean, this team. Obviously, they're spending a fraction of what these other teams in the division are spending, and that is always going to be a problem. And that's their they've made that decision. And obviously, Derek Jeter left. possibly due to stuff related to that. But it's not like they didn't get a lot better this offseason. You know, they made some big trades, bringing in veteran guys like Jacob Stallings, Joey Wendell. And then they did spend some money with Avisal Garcia and Jorge Soler. I really like this Marlins team. You talk about, you know, can the Phillies pitch? It's really going to be about can the Marlins hit. I mean, their pitching has been so good the last couple of years, and the lineup has just been so brutal. But if you bring in a guy like Soler, you bring in a guy like Garcia, obviously Jazz, who I'll get to in a little bit, like I would love to see them hang around. I think this is one of the more fun teams to watch in the league. And I think that it is a tough task to hang with these other teams that are spending literally double what they're spending, or triple in the Mets case. But I think I'm feeling pretty good about it. And they still have even more young pitching on the way, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah, we're not talking a lot about the Marlins. That's a good point. And is this far-fetched to say that in 3 years, let's say, the Marlins have the best rotation in baseball? Is that a far-fetched statement?
No, I mean, I think they're already a lot closer to them when we think, and we know that, you know, they got Sandy Alcantara to sign a long-term extension, but and they did it last year, and Sixto didn't throw a pitch. You know, he was hurt, and that's going to be big to see if he can come back from injury. But I really like, and it plays to their park. It's a pitcher-friendly park, and they if anything, they have developed those arms. It's really going to be about finding the bats, and obviously they got some in free agency, but they're going to have some other hitters like JJ Bleday really step up this year, because the offense has been what's lacking.
All right, so I'm going to put you on the spot now, Jordan. Who wins the National League East this year? We got a lot of good teams in the NL East. It's going to be a great division. Who you got taking it home?
Well, look, I talk about all these other teams. It's still the Braves. And honestly, look, this is a team that my good friend Jake Mintz wrote about after we did our stop in Braves camp during spring training. This team on paper is now looking better than they did when they just won the World Series last year. Yes, we can debate, you know, letting Freeman go for Olsen, whatever. At the very least, Olsen is close, if not capable of being as good, if not even better than Freeman this year. Not to mention the other upgrades they made on the roster, particularly in the bullpen. Hopefully we got Acuna back for at least 80% of the season. This team should still be really, really, really good. And I'm just going with the depth there, because I think that their lineup, their continuity in general, even beyond Freeman leaving, is still excellent. And I think that they're the deepest and clearly the team I think we can trust the most to be the most consistent, as they were last year, even though they were relatively disappointing in the regular season. They obviously got hot at the right time. So I'm sticking with Atlanta.
All right, so Jordan, I'm pumped you're joining me, because we're doing a full deep dive into the National League, a National League preview. We'll get to the American League tomorrow, but I'm going division by division. We're talking NL East. So let me preface this way. If you were to pick some players in the National League East, and there's a casual fan of baseball that doesn't watch a ton of NL East baseball, if you had to pick 3 players to watch, 3 players that you need to watch in the National League East, who would it be?
So let's start with Jazz. I mentioned him earlier. I mean, this dude is incredible. And I think the reason why I'm so excited about Jazz this year is not just because he's clearly established himself as a major leaguer with Miami, but now he's got some help, right? And he's got some guys that can also feed off of his energy and feed off of his personality. Guys like Soler, guys like Garcia, maybe some of the other young players that are coming up. And I'm so excited to see him, you know, lead the team and not just be kind of this one-man show that he's been over the last couple of seasons. I think that he, just in terms of what he's capable of doing with speed and power, there are very few players like Jazz Chisholm Jr. So super excited about Jazz. I think that would absolutely be one of them. I would say the next one is, I mean, look, I'm still sorry. Look, it's Juan Soto. Everyone knows who Juan Soto is, but I think what I'm most excited about for him this year is, look, the Nats lineup could struggle. It really could. And I'm more optimistic about the Nats lineup than most, but they could struggle. And the dude's 23 years old, but I don't know if he's already going to be getting the Barry Bonds treatment. I think he might, but I also think that he's getting better every year. He is capitalizing on the pitches he does get better every year. And I just can't wait to see what this batting line ends up being, even if the RBIs are a little bit lower than what they would be on a team with a better lineup. So that would be another one. And then one more that I want to mention is Starling Marte. And the reason why I want to mention Starling Marte is because this guy is obviously a big free agent acquisition for the Mets. But when you think about his career, and all due respect to the teams I'm about to name, but when you think about the markets that he's been playing in, Pittsburgh, Arizona, Miami, Oakland, right? I mean, that is not necessarily, those are not necessarily big stages. I know he made some postseason back with Pittsburgh early on. Now he's on the Mets. People are going to know who Starling Marte is, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on him for a Mets team that has been desperate to have some sort of competent center fielder for a long time, and he should be exactly that. And I just cannot wait for him to go this far into his career without people really knowing who he is. It's just, I think, a factor of who he's playing for. But he's an amazing player, and I think he's really going to help them. And I think a lot of people are going to know Starling Marte by the end of the season.
Great answer. So Jazz Chisholm, the Miami Marlins, Juan Soto, Washington Nationals, and Starling Marte, New York Mets. I like that. So before I let you go, another question for you. This one I'm excited to ask you to really get inside your mind here. Peel back some layers. I know you're you guys know the deep depths of the rosters, the prospects coming up. So I'm excited to talk to you about this. If you had to pick 3 players under the radar, rookies, that you're really excited to watch, that everybody should know their name, who would you pick?
So, yeah, I'll stick with guys who we will see. I'm almost positive we will see in the big leagues this year. There are so many prospects that are exciting that we can name. But let's go back to Miami. We talked about all the young pitching. I think Max Meyer is going to make an impact for them sooner rather than later. I mean, they already have a lot of young arms in their staff, so I don't know how quickly they're going to turn to him. But this is a guy who was a top 5 pick a few years ago out of the University of Minnesota. Fantastic athlete, one of the best sliders in all the minor leagues. And I know his numbers last year were good, not great, but I think this is one of the better pitching prospects in baseball. Not that the Marlins need another one of those, but I think that he is going to impact the team this year and probably very early in the season. And you will certainly be seeing him on Pitching Ninja and everything, certainly for that slider. But the rest of the stuff is very good as well. So Max Meyer is absolutely one that I'm super excited about. The next guy is also an MM alliteration, and we just got the news that he is going to be on the team, and that's Mickey Moniak. Now, is it a hot take to say look out for the number 1 overall pick? Well, if you're Mickey Moniak, I think it kind of is because of what his career has been thus far in Philadelphia, because he struggled. But the thing is this is not a prospect who has been given a full season and has fallen on his face, right? He only has like 50, 55, big league plate appearances. And he has been bad in those. I'm not taking, that's a fact, right? He really struggled last year in his brief call-up. But he's looked so good this spring training. He's still just 23. I mean, this dude could still be playing college baseball in the year of now where we have a bunch of 23 and 24-year-olds playing college. Like, this guy's still really young. Obviously, the Phillies center field has been a question for much of the spring training. Maybe he ends up platooning with Vierling. Maybe he gets the starting job. But I really just want to see Mickey Mo get a shot because I think he's finally earned it. And also, the pressure won't really be on him as much. When you talk about the rest of this lineup, all he's going to have to do is probably bat, 6th, 7th, or 8th. And just show out, right? It's not like, oh my God, we need Mickey Mo to be the best player on the team. Not even close, right? The pressure is not there, and I'm super excited for him. So Mickey Mo is definitely on my radar as well.
Okay.
One more. I got one more for you. All right.
All right, hit me.
Now, I know I already kind of said that the Nats lineup is not going to be very good. However, in a world where the Nats lineup is decent, it will rely very much on catcher Keibert Ruiz. And this is a dude who his numbers in the minor leagues as a catcher, and they, of course, got him in the big, Scherzer Turner blockbuster last year. This is a guy, we do not expect catchers to hit really at all anymore, right? We have like 5 to 7 catchers who we remotely expect to put up good numbers, and everyone else, it's like, all right, dude, just squat behind the plate and keep the ball in front of you and focus on the pitching staff. But this dude can rake, and as a switch hitting catcher, I believe he's also still 22, 23. The Nationals are in such a weird spot where, in some ways they're clearly rebuilding, in other ways they're handing Nelson Cruz a big free agent contract, but I think if the Nationals are going to hang around, and it's going to take a lot more than just Keibert Ruiz, but I think he can make an impact immediately. I think his bat-to-ball skills are as good as any young player in the minors, just like Juan Soto, and I think he could really be immediately part of the middle of that lineup. And it's going to take more than him, but if he can make an impact immediately, I think the Nats can be a little bit better than we expect.
Jordan, thank you so much for joining me, man. Hey, we're talking National League today. AL tomorrow. I'm going to bring you back on, talk some AL West tomorrow, your beloved Seattle Mariners. So thank you for joining me today. Anybody, you can check his work out with the Cespedes Barbecue on Twitter. Jake, Jordan, those guys are great, so check him out. Jordan, thank you so much for joining me today.
My pleasure. Can't wait for tomorrow.
Thanks for watching. If you love flipping bats, swinging 3-0, or just talking ball, join us. Call us at 213-537-9339 with your questions. We have a weekly guest, and we have a lot of fun, so hit that subscribe button.